There is no question. You just don't resonate. You don't need to make that decision every time you have a meal. It's already done. Actions that you take can be optimized. Now, the next level. My next journaling tip, a style of journaling that you can use, is the 7 levels of change. It's this idea that people change on different levels. I'll start from kind of the lowest level of change and go up to the highest level of change. I have them on my phone here, and the idea is that the lower the level of change, the less impactful it will be in your life. It's a good way to journal if you are trying to transform yourself or transform an area of your life, or you're trying to achieve something. I'll kind of write down my habits and behaviors currently for each level and what I think I need to do to kind of elevate myself or up level, and we'll see the difference, and then you can kind of take on those behaviors. But the idea is to do this for all of these levels of consciousness, because then it's more likely to last. So the lowest level of change is your environment. This is things like the people around you, your space. For instance, is your environment clean? Is your environment inspiring to you? And in terms of people, we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So what is your environment like in terms of that? You know, that's obviously influencing your behavior. So your environment can be very important, but again, it's one of the lowest levels of change because it's kind of external factors. So let's use the example of somebody wanting to get in shape, lose weight, something like that. And apologies if this is triggering to anyone, maybe skip past this, but it's just an easy, tangible example that lots of people can relate to. So if we're using the example of wanting to lose weight, in your journal you could say, okay, what in my environment is contributing to my current state of being out of shape, overweight, or just generally unhappy with my body and how I feel? Maybe some things that you could write down are, there is lots of junk food around. Everyone around me eats unhealthily, so it's easy for me to then become unhealthy and make unhealthy choices as well. One way that you could change your environment is you could change the types of food you expose yourself to. So at home, for instance, you could make sure that there's only healthy food in the house. That is an environment that you spend lots of time in. When your friends or your family are going out and always eating fast food or junk food, you could suggest different places, suggest doing other things that don't involve eating together necessarily whilst you're in this kind of transition. Buy some clothes that make you feel better about yourself. Maybe for a while you need to size up until you are able to shed some weight and feel more confident. The idea is these are small changes that you can make in your environment, and that's the kind of base level of change. So above the environment level, we have actions, and this is a higher level of change. So you can change the things around you in your environment, but to go deeper, you can start to change yourself. So this is a more internalized shift. It's a behavioral shift, and so it's a higher level of change. Okay, so an example of this, we're sticking with the weight loss. You could go get a gym membership, or you could start working out, you could start a exercise schedule, and so you're changing your behavior. So maybe when you're journaling, write down your typical habits at the moment in terms of your actions and behaviors. Maybe it's that you only move your body once a week, and that is just a gentle stroll. And actually your goal is to gain muscle, and so that's not really going to help you gain muscle. Perhaps an action that you need to take is you need to do more weightlifting. You need to maybe burn some of the fat, so you need to do some cardio. And so you're going to implement different actions that will then help to change your situation. So above the actions now, it's going deeper, but it's a higher level of change. So this is something that's even more significant that you can do. And as we get to the higher and higher levels, the more likely we are to stick to this plan, the more likely we are to actually make a change change, because the thing is, when we just change things at the kind of lower environmental and behavioral levels, it doesn't last, because our habits that kept us in our predicament before are deeply ingrained. And so you need changes then that are also deeply ingrained in order to kind of move you away from the old way of being into your new self. So above the action slash behavioral changes, so we've got environment, then we have actions slash behaviors. The level above that is capabilities. This is knowledge. So again, we're talking about weight loss. So we've talked about things that we can change in our environment. We've talked about things that we can physically go out and do. But sometimes you're limited by your level of knowledge or expertise. So maybe if you're trying to achieve this certain body, maybe you can only get so far with what you know. Maybe at some point you need a professional. Maybe that's a nutritionist. Maybe that is a personal trainer. Maybe it's an online course or something. So it's about kind of using your journal to document where you are now, what you know. Maybe you're trying to work out on your own in the gym, but actually your form isn't very good, and so your workouts are not effective. So there's a gap there in your knowledge, in your capabilities, and so you're not getting the benefits. So the idea is in your journal to identify where you are now, identify any gaps in your knowledge, anything that could enhance your awareness, your knowledge, your skill set that can improve the actions that you're making at the lower level. With this weight loss example, that could be having a nutritionist, so that's a professional. Maybe you have a doctor run some tests, maybe there's something going on chemically in your body that's contributing to your weight gain or your inability to lose as much weight as you would like. And so knowing more, having that awareness, having access to those expertise can then help you and propel you forward. So you're kind of changing your knowledge and your capabilities and improving yourself at that deeper level. Okay, so we've done the first three. We've done the environmental level, we've done your actions and behaviors, we've now done your capabilities. So we started off by your external, the environment, then we went to actions. These are things that you're physically changing. It doesn't take much effort, it just takes a bit of motivation perhaps. Then we went to capabilities. Now this is where you're getting expertise, this is where you're increasing your knowledge and making sure that you know as much as possible so that the actions that you take can be optimized. Now the next level is your belief system. This is now again a deeper level. So again, if we're talking about weight loss, what are your current beliefs about what is achievable for you in terms of your body? Maybe you have a belief that everyone in your family is of a certain size, and so you can't really see yourself being much different to them, even though that's what you want. Or maybe you have a belief that your weight always fluctuates. You're somebody that yo-yos, maybe you'll lose some weight but you'll gain it all back. That's a belief, that's not fact. Maybe you believe that in order for you to lose weight, you need to be on a very strict diet. You need to eliminate carbs, you need to eliminate sugar, all of these things. And then because of that, maybe you're not able to diet effectively because of course that's not sustainable. Nobody would want to live like that in such a restricted way. So maybe because of that underlying subconscious belief, you kind of sabotage yourself in terms of your actions because there's no way that somebody would want to restrict themselves so much. So in your journal, in one column, you're going to try to identify the beliefs that you have about your body, about weight, about whatever it is, your current beliefs, and then you're going to try to understand what beliefs would be more supportive to you. Somebody who is in the ideal shape that you would like, someone who has that body type that you would like, what kind of beliefs do they have? Do they believe that they have to restrict themselves in terms of diet? Or do they believe that they just need to have a healthy lifestyle overall? Maybe they believe that it's kind of 80-20, it's 80%, sticking to a routine, but then you leave some room just to enjoy life. Maybe their belief is that sugar is bad for you. And so to them, having sugar is not even an option or something that they would entertain because they believe that it's it's bad for them, and so they don't even want it. It's not even appealing to them. Maybe that's the kind of shift that you need to make. Maybe they believe less in genetics and actually take responsibility for their body type. And so maybe they are more active and they don't just kind of accept that, because my genetics say this, I will naturally have this body. So it's about identifying the beliefs that you currently have, deciding if those beliefs are serving you, deciding if those beliefs will support you in becoming the next version of yourself and where you want to go, or if you need to swap those beliefs for something else, and then you can try to reprogram yourself. Maybe you use affirmations, maybe write out these beliefs and you stick them up around your house so that you're constantly seeing them, so that they're constantly going into your subconscious. Remember, things that we believe are things that we have repeated over and over and over again. So in order to change that, we can't just think a new thought and develop a new belief. It needs to be something that is repeated over and over and over again, or we need to see lots of evidence supporting it. So if affirmations are not your thing, what you could do is you could look up lots of evidence. Maybe you could find evidence of somebody who started off in a similar position to where you are now and have achieved the transformation that you're looking for. If you find enough evidence of people who have done that, that will help you to buy into this. It will help you to believe that it's possible for you. And so you can start to change your belief because you have seen evidence that it is possible. And it's not just in your head, but you've seen evidence. So above beliefs, an even more integrated level of change. This is a deeper level of change. This, again, if you're able to change at this level, it's a more significant change and it will be more long lasting. So above beliefs, you have values. So what are your values in life? Again, in one column, you're going to write down, we're sticking with this example of weight loss, you're going to write down what your values are in terms of your health, in terms of your wellness, in terms of your well-being, in terms of your fitness. Do you value your health? Is that something that is a priority for you? Why do you value it if you do, or why don't you value it? Do you value whole foods as opposed to kind of processed foods? You're going to write down what your current values are. Maybe right now you value convenience over fresh, unprocessed food. Right now, when you come home after a long day, it's much easier for you to order a takeaway or to eat some junk food because it's quick, it's convenient. Whereas if you valued fresh food and you valued whole foods, you might spend that extra half an hour to cook a home-cooked meal or to eat something slightly more healthy because that's something that you value, it's something that's important to you. If you really value your body and you really value, you see your body as a temple, you'll be very mindful of what you put into your body, and you'll be very mindful of how you treat your body externally. You'll be more motivated to move your body every day because to you, that's a form of self-care, whereas it might not be to other people. And the thing is, with values, these are things that we carry with us. These are things that are important to us. And so we never really stray from our values. This is why it's a deeper level of change, because it's such a part of who we are that it's something that we don't need to make a decision about, okay? So most of the other things that I talked about, the lower levels of change, it takes some sort of decision making. But if something is a part of your values and what you stand for in life, that's already decided. It's not something that you need to decide in the moment. You already know what you stand for. For instance, if you stand for healthy eating, you don't need to make that decision every time you have a meal. It's already done. It's something that is like, there's no question about it. So when you come home after a long day, it isn't even a thought for you to have junk food because you just don't resonate with that. That's not something that is a part of who you are. You don't value that at all. And so it's not a decision. It's just who you are. And the natural thing for you to do is to cook something healthy. So we're on to number 2. This is now an even greater level of change, and this is at the identity level. Anything that goes with I am forms part of your identity because that's how you're explaining who you are. That's how you see yourself. That's how you describe yourself. And so write down, what are your I am statements at the moment? as it pertains to your body, as it pertains to weight loss? How do you describe yourself? Do you currently describe yourself as, would you say, I am overweight? I am inconsistent with working out. I am lazy when it comes to going to the gym. I am somebody who comfort eats. Write down what are your current I am statements and be really honest with yourself. This is why journaling, it's a safe space for you because nobody else is going to see this. And it really makes a difference if you're very honest. It can be very confronting. Sometimes it can be upsetting when you write these things down. But at the end of the day, this is how you're going to achieve change. If you don't kind of confront these things, they're happening anyway in the background. So you highlighting them to yourself is just bringing them to the surface so that you can actually address them and work on them. Otherwise, they're still there anyway. So you may as well kind of face them, become aware of them so that you have the opportunity to change them. So if those are your current I am statements, what would your ideal I am statements be? What would your ideal identity be? Would you like to describe yourself as fit and healthy? What would that person be doing? Would you like to describe yourself as a healthy eater? So if you're somebody who currently is an emotional eater, overeats, things like that, maybe the up-leveled version of you, the person who has made this transition, this change, maybe your I am statement is, I regulate my emotions. I eat when I'm hungry and not for any other reason. I eat to fuel my body, not for comfort. Things like that. So you have to understand where you are now, understand where you want to go, and figure out the kind of identity that you need to adopt, and then work to put that into practice. Affirmations help with this, or simply trying to become aware of the choices that you're making. Maybe keep a diary of when you're eating, how it makes you feel, how many times you miss a workout and things like that. And then you can kind of track your habits. But the reason this is important and such a high level of change is that we will only live in accordance with how we see ourselves. So we will only live up to our own self-image, our own identity, the identity that we create for ourselves. So whatever description you have of yourself, however you view yourself, whatever your identity is, you will only operate within the bounds of that. So if you want to achieve different things and you want to change different things, you have to change your identity. Therefore, you change how you operate, you change who you are. And to give you an example of sort of how powerful an identity shift can be, if somebody decides, somebody is currently a meat eater and they decide that they don't want to eat meat anymore. They go to a party, let's say, and meat is being served. And because they have spent their whole life eating meat, it might be quite difficult for them, especially in the early stages of change. It might be quite difficult for them to resist it, especially if it looks really good and they can remember what it tastes like and all of these things. And they might be tempted. They might think, oh, it's just a one-off, it's fine, I can have some. Their identity before was as a meat eater, and they're just trying to change their habit. Remember, that's a lower level of change. They're currently just trying to change their habit of eating meat, which takes a lot of discipline, and discipline is not always there. Versus if somebody changes their identity from being a meat eater to suddenly becoming vegan or vegetarian, it's not just that they're saying, I want to stop eating meat. That's just a habit change. That's a lower level of change, but they're now changing their identity. They now identify as a vegan, as a vegetarian. They now have different values attached to that will support this identity. It's now no longer a choice or a decision. They'll see meat and they'll know instantly that's not for them because they are vegan or they're vegetarian. So it's a very different energy. And so it's very easy for them to forego meat because it doesn't align with their identity. And maybe their reasons for being vegan or vegetarian, they have very strong values around it. They have very strong reasons for it. Maybe it's environmental, maybe it is to do with their body and their and weight. And so that's the kind of shift that we need to make, something that is so fundamental that it's not just a lower level change, which is based on a habit, because we can't always be so disciplined. So finally, we have the highest level of change that one can make. And this is to do with your purpose. This is to do with your mission, your vision. So we've gone from changing things kind of at the environmental level to our actions, external to us, then physical things that we can do, then gaining knowledge to improve the physical things that we can do, to deeper levels of consciousness, our belief, values, our identity, all of those things. And now we're taking it again outside of us, but even greater. We're attaching more to it. It's bigger than us. It's a mission, it's a vision, it's a purpose. It's what we're here for. And when a change is supported by something so big, by something bigger than you, something outside of you, you're able to stick with it more. It's a much, much bigger level of change. And so an example for this, if it's to do with weight loss and things like that, again, maybe your mission is you've seen people in your family, maybe there is an obesity problem, and you've made it your mission to break that cycle. So it's now not just about trying to lose weight to fit a certain aesthetic, but this has something more to it. This has a deeper meaning. There is a mission, there is a charge behind this, and that will propel you. This is something that you're more likely to stick to because it's such a deeper level of change. Now, I'm not saying you have to want to change the world, but what I'm saying is you can kind of identify your reasons right now for wanting to change your weight or whatever it is, write those down, and then you can look at, okay, what bigger purpose could there be? What more would it mean to me? What could I attach to this to kind of help propel me forward? And if you have a strong enough why, a strong mission, a strong vision, that's something that will facilitate a much greater change. So that's it. Those are my journaling tips for you. I think we've gone through 10 now. Let me know in the comments if there are any other journaling styles or methods that you use that might be useful. I'd love to learn more if there are any other useful ways of journaling. And also let me know if you try any of these techniques that I've suggested. Let me know how they work out for you. Thank you for watching. And I hope that you found this valuable. I hope that you found it useful, and I will see you in my next video.